Hi, I'm Trey and welcome to one of my colouring tutorials. In this tutorial I'm going to be working on a flower design from a book by Tatiana Bogema, Stolova. It's from vintage classic colouring books. She has three and I have one of them, and I like them very much. I like the uh, interesting combination of creatures and florals and foliage. I do like a nice little town books, but these classic ones, are more interesting for me. Now, I'm going to be using Arteza pencils, and I use the 120 set, but I think the colours I'm using are also in the 72. And I'm going to go for a bold effect. I've done it before on other flowers, in other designs, and I really like it, so I wanted to share that in a tutorial with people. So anybody that's watching this, I hope you find it interesting, and let's start the video. Now this design here is the bigger version of the one I'm going to be doing the video on, but like I said, I'm just going to be working on the flower, and I did a similar effect on this flower, but I'm going to go for slightly even bolder colours this time for this video. Now the actual design I'm working on in the video is the This Book Belongs To page, and it just happens to be a larger version of that flower. So I'm going to be doing the tutorial with this flower design. Now the colours I'm working in on the Arteza pencil set is yellow 104, a lilac purple 409, a dark purple 416, and a dark brown 310. And as always, I like to start with my lightest colours, and so that's a yellow for this flower, and I'm going to be looking for the sections that I feel would be lightest. Now there's a little bit of line art in here which I like to give you an idea of where to put your light and dark sections. So I'm going to be working on the top parts of this flower first, because it's got more sections I feel that would be in the lighter areas. So just with light pressure, I'm going to be putting down a little bit of the yellow. Now I'm trying to work out, because there's lines in this, if I'm going to be putting some lilac in between to highlight even further those sections of yellow. So I'm just picking at random some of these highlighted line sections and putting the yellow in there. Again, I do this lightly so I can adjust it later on if need be. I need to be a little bit more careful though when I do this with bolder colours, because of course the purple and the yellow are quite different. So not necessarily going to go over each other. So it's not like when you have colours that are very similar, you can do like a blend together. These colours aren't necessarily going to blend together, because this is creating a bolder effect. I tend to take a little bit more time and working out where I want my lighter sections. So I'm looking at where I feel it might bend upwards towards the light. And when I put the other colours down, that will emphasise that. Give it more of a beveled effect. Now what I've tried to do is, it's almost like a random effect. I've put in lighter sections, because what I'm thinking is, as I'm going along, where I'm going to put in some of the lilacs beside it, and then to highlight what I've already put in for the yellow. It's not an exact science, and it's just looking at what I'm doing and seeing in my mind really what I think might happen if I put lilac beside it, and how it might highlight it. So it's just a little bit of a playing really, and testing it out. So hopefully you've been able to follow that, and if you do something similar to this and there's line art there, just choose where you think it might go. This is not about light source or anything like that. This is just looking for an interesting effect. Now I'm going to be using the lilac, the 409, which is the palest purple I'm using on this design. I'm going to be first just lightly putting in the lilac around the sections where I put the yellow down, just to see how that's going to work. Again, just using light pressure. And also when I'm doing this, I'll be able to see if there's any sections I feel should have been yellow, or if I need to extend the yellow in some parts. Now this is quite a big flower, so I'm not going to be doing all of those sections on camera, but I'm hoping you're getting a little bit of an idea what I meant. So as I'm building up the lilac, I can see possibly areas where I want to extend the yellow, but it's also highlighting those yellow sections, by putting the lilac around the edges of it. And I do this effect to create a beveled effect on other shapes, such as when I do plant pots and such as that, because it makes sections stand out a little bit more, makes it look rounded. So that's what I'm trying to create at the ends of this flower. And I'm now just extending a little bit of the yellow. I'll be continuing with that throughout. The other thing as well is that where it's darker with the flower, I will be putting in the lilac. As you go further into the flower it would be darker anyway, away from the lighter sections. So I will be colouring all of those sections in further down with the lilac. Now I've been working on the lilac sections, and closest to the centre of the flower I've been putting the lilac sections in, and around the yellow, but adapting that as I go along. So if I feel the yellow needed to be extended, I've extended that. I'm just working it out as per petal and as per section of those petals, which is one of the reasons why I did this most of this off camera, because it would take a long time to do, and I'm not sure people need to be watching all of that. So it's just to give you an idea how I'm working this out for an interesting effect rather than light source. So yes, I'm still thinking about the curved sections of the petals, I'm trying to emphasize those sections, but also make for, you know, a depth to the flower without thinking about if, you know, there's a light source coming in. So I find this kind of project interesting and relaxing, really. You can be creative without trying to be realistic, and I think that's nice at times to do that. I like to do both, but sometimes I just like to relax into a design and make it more creative rather than realistic. So I have now got the lilac down. It's just one layer of each colour, and so it is quite rough looking, but this is my first layers to give me an idea where my colours are going to go. Now I'm going to be using the darkest purple. Now the darkest purple will be going the close to the middle of the flowers. So I'll do those sections first, just light pressure. Using the lighter line art that's already on the flower. So where the line art's more densest, I'm using the darkest colours. And when I'm doing a design like this, there's a lot to think about and some ways, and I'm trying for a various effect. I'll do the most obvious sections for that shade of colour. So I've done the obvious darker sections. Now I'm going to be looking at this in the same way as I looked at the lilac and the yellow. And I want to highlight, making slightly darker sections around the lilac and some around the purple. Now that's not necessarily easy to explain, but I'm just looking at the line art and where I've put my initial two colours and just seeing what I think will work in the darker purple. And The rule of thumb for this one for me is the darker it is, the more it goes backwards. So the lighter it is, the more it looks like it's beveled. So if I'm trying to highlight that effect, that's when I'm going to be putting in my darkest colours. Now that's just rough. It's not anything exact. It's just to give me an idea where I feel the darker colours are going to go. And this can be adapted as the layers go down. Now I'm going for the brown, which will actually darken in that purple. This brown works really nice, dark brown with dark purple to darken it in further. I'm going to put in kind of like round the edges where the darkest line art is, just to darken it in that little bit more. Now that is the first few layers for that flower. As you can see, it needs a lot more layers and a lot more adapting and changing for each colour, and this will take a little bit of time to work out. So I'm not going to do it all on camera, we'll be here for hours. And I will have to adapt it as I go along. Some parts of the lilac, for instance, will be extended, and the darker colours, the darker purple and the brown. Well, that takes a little bit of planning and working out, but I hope what I've done so far has given people an idea of how you can create an interesting effect for a flower. So I'll put a few more layers down of this, and then I'll come back to this and show you how it's worked out. I've put a few layers down of the colours I'm working with for this flower, and I'm now going to do a very slight blend. Now I've put a very small amount of zest onto a cotton bud because I don't want to spread the really dark colours very much into the lighter colours, because I kind of like the effect of that contrast. So all I'm doing really is trying to smooth it out a little bit. I've already done some of this. Now the colours I've actually chosen have worked really nice together. The brown especially darkened in sections to make a nice contrast. So it's very dark to the very light, and that's the effect I was looking for, to be able to create a bold effect for this flower. I've used purple and yellow before together, and I do like the effect. I think it's more striking, rather than just using versions of the same colour. And I find doing things like this quite good. One, it's bold, I mean it really stands out. And the other useful part of this is if you don't have a very pale version of a colour in the pencil set, you can use a contrasting colour as a highlight, and it works quite well. Yes, it'll be bolder, but it's still a really nice effect, and makes it quite useful when you're doing things that you need a contrast, you know, different shades and much lighter shades of colour. So that is this flower finished. I hope anybody that's watched this has found this useful, and the idea of using very dark colours going into medium dark and then very bright colours together to make a highlighted effect is interesting for people, and I hope anybody wants to try this. You know, it'd be nice to see what you manage with this, so please do come over onto my Facebook page and show me what you've managed to do. If you have any comments, please leave them. If you have any colour combinations that have worked for you, like I've used here, please do let me know about those as well, because I like to try out different colour combinations. So I'll say bye for now, and I'll see you again in the near future with another tutorial or demonstration video.